So there's several ways that you can use coffee grounds in your home, but I'm gonna go over ones that are specific to our homestead. Good morning, by the way. My name is Angie here at Abundant Acres Homestead, and we're gonna go ahead and make us some coffee and have us a little chit chat, and I'll show you some of the ways that I plan on using these coffee grounds all around the homestead. One of the first things I wanted to do is to go over where you get your coffee grounds. Obviously, if you're a coffee drinker, get coffee grounds from your coffee pot. I will tell you, we mainly drink coffee in the wintertime when it's cold outside like it is now. Summertime, I don't really drink a whole lot of coffee. So saving our coffee grounds in the wintertime, pretty easy. In the summertime when we're not drinking as much coffee, not as easy. So what do we do then? And yes, I just put a ton of creamer in there because I'm one of those people that don't like my coffee to taste like coffee. I like it to taste like creamer, so don't judge me. If it's not in the winter and we're not drinking coffee, what do you do? Okay, one thing you can do is obviously get a hold of the coffee drinkers in your life and ask them to just save the coffee grounds for you. Give them a bucket, pick it up every once in a while. The biggest way to do it and to get the most coffee grounds that you possibly can is to visit Starbucks. We literally just picked this up. Actually, when I say we, I mean Kenny. He was in town. I had him just run by Starbucks. What they do is they just go through and they empty everything, throw it in a bag, and you take the bag and you go. And if you want even more, call them ahead of time, call your store ahead of time, let them know that you want to come in, that you want to pick up the coffee grounds, and they will actually save their daily coffee grounds for you to pick up. If you are going to do this, and that is your plan, is to go pick up, make sure you get that pickup time because they have been saving these coffee grounds for you. So if they're going to do you this favor, make sure that you get there and you actually do pick it up because otherwise, rude. But if you're not sure whether or not you're going to be able to get there to pick up the coffee grounds, don't call ahead. Don't ask them to save it. Just pop in, ask them for what they have in their thing right now. This is literally what they had in their machine when Kenny went to pick it up. So, yeah, it's a pretty good chunk. I will say, depending on the uses that you're going to do with the coffee grounds, some of the uses you definitely want them dried out. So all that I do is I just dump it in a cookie sheet, and throughout the day, I'll just come through and just kind of rake it around and just let the coffee grounds dry out. And once they're dried out, I just throw them in the bucket and then they're ready to go. I didn't bother drying them out because, well, I'll show you what I'm gonna do with these, and they don't need to be dried out. Okay, for the next bit, we're gonna go out to the garden. Go ahead, laugh at my little ball, hat, whatever. It's cold out, look. Even ice on the swimming pool. It's cold. Actually not that bad compared to what it has been, so not really going to complain. Plus, we are at the end of December, and I'm still able to go out in flannels, so not going to complain. But it's still cold, so you know me, I'm going to whine all winter. But okay, here we are out in the garden. One of the first places I'm going to talk about using the coffee grounds. The first way I'm going to use coffee grounds is actually just in a raised bed. I'm just going to sprinkle it right on top of the raised bed. You can try to put it in the ground if you want to. Our ground's already starting to freeze, so not really going to do me any good. But as many of you know, if you've been following our channel, you know that we filled our raised beds with a lot of logs and things like that. So in doing so, it was great for filler, but in doing so, it kind of robbed a lot of the nitrogen out of the soil that was in there. So what this is going to do is put nitrogen right back in it, because that's pretty much all that it is. It's actually a 20-to-1 ratio of nitrogen in used coffee grounds. And a lot of people think that coffee grounds are acidic. Actually, they're not. Once they've been used and ran through the water, they're actually pretty neutral. I think it's like 6.9 or something like that on the pH scale, obviously depending on the coffee that you use. But yeah, for the most part, it's really actually very, very neutral. And another reason I wanted to do this video in the middle of winter is because a lot of people think that you can take the coffee grounds and put them into like your house plants and things like that, and that it's going to just bring it back to life. While it does have a lot of nitrogen in it, it's not nitrogen that is going to be accessible quickly. I put the coffee grounds on here. If there was something planted in here right now, the coffee grounds wouldn't be available for the plants to absorb any of the nitrogen. The coffee actually has to break down into the soil, which usually takes about 3 to 4 months before it will actually be nitrogen that is available to any of the plants. So here we are at the end of December, and you count it out: December, January, February, March, April. The end of April, this is going to be turned into nitrogen that whatever is planted in here will actually be able to use. So if you're going to be putting coffee all over everything, that would be the perfect time to do it, because once your plants actually start growing in April, May, the nitrogen will already be there and be available for the plants that are actually growing to use it. So nitrogen everywhere. Okay, the second place I want to throw my coffee is right into our compost bin. We don't actually have a bin, we have a pile. So I just throw it right on there. This time of year, there's not really a whole lot of green matter to use to throw into the compost, especially if you're just now starting to build a compost and all that you have is like the sticks and leaves and stuff like that. Sticks and leaves are great for the compost, but there's not a whole lot of nitrogen. There's not any green matter to it. So just throwing coffee into your compost will, one, add nitrogen, and two, it will actually help break it down a whole lot faster. And any worms that you have in here are just gonna love having the coffee grounds, because they'll actually be able to eat it and then turn it into worm castings, which is just gonna make your compost even that much better. So, second way of using it. Speaking of worms, as far as like fishing goes, my dad always swore he would get fishing worms, and he would throw used coffee grounds into the dirt that he planned on going fishing the next day. He would throw the used coffee grounds in the dirt, put it in the refrigerator, and then he swore that the coffee grounds helped him fish better, and that the fish liked coffeed worms. So, especially for bass. He always said it really worked well for bass. Oh, and catfish. So if you want to give it a try, whether or not it works, I don't know, but my dad swore by it and he fished all the time. So there you go. There's your bonus one. Okay, so this one here, I'm not really going to be able to show you too well, because all that I have growing out here is carrots, and carrots don't really need it. But when your garden is going full bore, it also makes a great mulch. So use it as a mulch. But like any other mulch, just make sure that when you're mulching the plant that you keep it away from the plant. I usually go about 3 to 4 inches away from the plant for any kind of mulch, just so that I can make sure that the plant itself is getting plenty of water and the water's able to actually get in. Which mulch, one of the things it does is it keeps water in the soil, but it can also slow down the water getting into the soil. So just make sure whenever you use any kind of mulch, whether it's coffee grounds or not, don't put it real close to your plant. Give your plant a little bit of room so that it can keep getting all that good God water. And another thing while we're here, again, I can't show you because all that I have is carrots, but it is also a great slug deterrent. I'm gonna go ahead and just put it all over the carrots anyway, just because I want the nitrogen in this bed because the carrots I'm gonna pull out anyway. But, sorry, squirrel. But it is a great deterrent for slugs. A lot of people say that ants don't like it, slugs, snails. There's a whole slew of garden pests that they say that supposedly it keeps them away. I've actually seen where slugs will turn away from coffee grounds though. So as any of you gardeners know, anything that has like pretty much any kind of leafy green, slugs will eat it all up. So coffee grounds is a great way to keep the slugs away. You would just use it like a mulch. They don't like going across it. They'll actually turn away from it and go the other way. So if you got slugs eating on something, obviously pick the slugs off of the plant, because once they're already on there, you know, putting a mulch around it isn't going to help anyway. But pick them off there, use it like a mulch around it, and then it will keep the slugs at bay. So that is another way. Oh, and speaking of pests, I know my mom used to do this when we was kids growing up, and we did a lot of camping and stuff like that, but she would take the coffee grounds from that morning and she would throw them in just a piece of aluminum foil. She usually just used whatever aluminum foil was left over, but she'd throw the coffee grounds in there and she'd just wad it up. And then later on that night, when we had the fire going, she would just take the aluminum foil, I called it the log or whatever you want to say, because she kind of rolled it up into a log. And then she would just throw it in the fire, and the smell of it as it would burn kind of acted as kind of like a tiki torch and kind of kept the mosquitoes away. So that's just a bonus tip in there. Another garden one that I forgot to add while I was out in the garden is you actually take the coffee grounds, and if you have like the teeny tiny seeds, especially like, I don't know, things like carrots where the seeds are like so super tiny, trying to seed space those is really, really hard. So what you do is you just take some of those seeds, mix it in with your used coffee grounds, and it helps as you spread it out. It will help with the seed spacing. So another way to use coffee grounds in the garden. You definitely want to have dried coffee grounds if you're going to have it obviously sit by your sink for you to use as like a hand wash, which will help neutralize the odors from things like, I don't know, if you're working with like fish, like tuna or onions or stuff like that. It will help neutralize the odors on your hands, but not only that, it will also help. Like my husband, he works on a lot of equipment, so he uses all kinds of stuff, all kinds of chemicals and sprays and oils and gas, pretty much just about everything that really makes your hands stink to high heaven. So if you're doing things that make your hands all grimy and gross, having some dried coffee grounds by the sink for you to wash your hands up, it will help get all the grime and gruck and yuck off of your hands, because it will exfoliate and it gets the smell out too. Not only will it neutralize your hands, but once they're all dried up, you can put them in a cup, stick them in your refrigerator. It'll get rid of the odors that are in the refrigerator, a cabinet. If you can figure out a way to do it, we have an actual like shoe box, and it's just a box, and then we throw all of our shoes in it. That can get pretty rank, especially later in the year, like in the summertime and stuff like that. So what I do is I will put this in there and I put it in the corner so that it doesn't get dumped over, and it'll suck up all the stink. Homesteading has always been about using what you got and finding multiple uses for pretty much about everything. So there's a bunch of multiple uses for coffee grounds, and plus you get to drink coffee in the morning. I mean, can you get much better than that?